We all know that Victor Wembanyama is great. We all know that he's a generational talent. But sometimes I feel like even a term as prestigious as generational talent doesn't do it justice. I'm not exaggerating when I say I've never seen anything like this. I don't know if I'll ever see anything like this again. We've seen great players enter the NBA in the past, and we'll continue to see great players enter the NBA in the future. But I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a player where every single aspect of that player feels unrealistic, despite the fact it's the reality of the situation. And even though he has one game left to play, I don't need to wait to explain the obvious. Because Victor Wembanyama rose to superstardom in only 71 games. But quickly, before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate if you would like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and notify whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me on the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the playoffs. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend others. Anyways, let's talk about this dude. In 71 games, Victor Wembanyama has averaged 21.4 points per game, 10.6 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists per game, 3.6 blocks per game, and 1.2 steals per game on 46.5, 32.5, 79.6 splits, and a 56.5 true shooting percentage. Oh, and he did this in under 30 minutes per game. To put into perspective how absurd these numbers are, here are the list of players to average at least 21 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, and 3 blocks per game, as well as 1 steal per game in a season. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bob Lanier, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, and Victor Wembanyama. He's also the only player to do this in under 36 minutes, let it alone under 30 minutes per game. He put up numbers that only Hall of Fame players have put up, 3 of which have won at least 1 MVP. And Wemby put up those numbers that they only put up in their prime as a rookie in under 30 minutes per game. He's also the youngest player in NBA history to have a 5x5 game, as well as the only rookie to ever have a 5x5 game, which is at least 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks. He also was 1 assist aside from having 2 5x5 games on back-to-back nights. He had a 40-27 game against the Knicks, who were a top 10 defense in the NBA, a 10-block game in under 30 minutes, where he also had 27 points and only missed 4 shots, a game where he had 9 blocks along with 23 points, 15 rebounds, and 8 assists against the defending NBA champions, another triple-double where he had 10 assists, 0 turnovers, a 33-point, 18 rebound, 6 assist, 7 block game against the Sixers, and a 29-point, 9 rebound, 4 assist, 4 block game against the best defense in the NBA in the Minnesota Timberwolves. These are just a handful of absurd games Wemby has had as a rookie. And mind you, he spent a decent amount of games this season on a minutes restriction. Wemby showcased massive strides offensively as the season went along. He's always had the skill, his handle is legit, the creation intangibles are instinctual, and can also do the big man stuff as well. But he did take a few games to adjust. However, as the months went on, it got better and better. The game began to slow down for him, his playmaking and creation flashes were turning into substance, and his offensive strides in 71 games is unheard of. He went from promising potential to legit substance to one of the most dominant players in the league in one season. For most top picks, that's something you expect to see over the course of 3 to 5 seasons. He did it in 71 games. He had his ups and downs like all rookies do, there's no doubt about that, but the dominance outshined the low points significantly, and even in games where he wasn't the best offensively, he would still have like 7 blocks. But with the offense in particular, he proved time and time again to be dominant. He already was hard to stop off his movement skills, height, and play finishing alone. Then you had a handle, creation ability, and jump shooting as a scorer with real ability as a high field playmaker, and it's something out of a video game. In fact, it's not even that, because I don't know if that even exists in basketball video games. Personally, because basketball video games are really bad. Also because this is completely unrealistic. Everything about it is absurd. The numbers on a month-to-month basis are absurd. The tape is even more absurd, because it shouldn't be possible. But that's mostly because everything he does should be impossible. But what's most absurd is that he went through an entire development arc that most players take years to go through in just a few months. In just a few months, he made the type of development that other stars like Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Haliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Steph Curry took years to go through. That's the type of improvement he made in just a few months. The path to superstardom is a journey. Most players don't enter the league as a superstar, and the ones that do are all-time greats for a reason. Wemby is that type of talent. A 19 to 20-year-old rookie that has made strides that are supposed to take years. And I guess it's fitting that a player that's already completely unrealistic compared to NBA standards would make strides in their development that are also completely unrealistic. Victor Wembanyama is already the best defensive player in the NBA right now, and I don't feel uncomfortable saying that. He passes all the tests: base stats, advanced stats, and eye test. He passes all of them with flying colors. He led the NBA in rookies as a block, the first to ever do that, and he did it in under 30 minutes per game while being the only player in the entire league to average over 3 blocks per game. While he won't likely win Defensive Player of the Year because the Spurs were awful this season, he had a Hall of Fame impact on defense. The Spurs had the 8th best defensive rating in the NBA when he was on the court. They had the 29th ranked defensive rating in the NBA when he was off the court. And the scary part is, he's still figuring it out. It's only going to get better from here. He's already the best defensive player in the NBA right now, simply by being on the court and moving around. He's already just that good. He affects every play. Teams actively try to avoid him, and he's still uber productive defensively. He breaks all conventional logic for what should be considered open on a shot attempt. And the thing is, he still has a ton of room to grow. His defensive positioning can get better. His reaction time can get better. Those things are true. But the fact that he's already the best defensive player in the NBA right now, despite the fact that he has these flaws, is terrifying. Because I can only imagine what it's going to look like when he does improve his defensive positioning and he does improve his reaction time. Because when he does that, he's going to have a massive gap between himself and the second best defensive player in the league, and it's going to be astronomical. And while it's a high expectation to reach, I don't think it's unrealistic to believe that if he improves and stays healthy, he will be the greatest defensive player of all time. And I don't say that without any hesitation, nor do I say that lightly. If the 7'5" height with the guard-like movement skills, the legit handle, creation intangibles, playmaking feel, and defensive impact weren't enough, well, he's also wired to be great. This isn't something that is necessarily tangible, but when you watch the NBA for long enough, you can tell when a player has what it takes when you watch them play. What I saw in LeBron, Steph, Russ, Giannis, among others who have reached MVP heights, I see in Wemby. I see a player who wants to dominate. I see a player that wants to win. Just look at the way he celebrates after a handful of wins the Spurs have had this season. Winning means a lot to him, and I know it's rough now because the team is really bad. They just started really going all in on the rebuild, but you can tell that he's not going out there just to play. He's going out there to try and win. It takes an extra gear to be great. It's what separates the good from the great. It's what makes talent live up to its fullest potential. And Wemby has that extra gear. He has that drive to be great. He has the mindset and the tools to take over a game, and he knows it. which is only going to get more terrifying the better he gets. I don't think any ceiling other than best player in the world will do justice to Wemby. And that's crazy and absurd to have as an expectation. But not only does it feel realistic, it also feels inevitable. He's this good already. He's dominating offensively, and he's the best defensive player in the NBA right now. If I was voting, he would easily be first team all defense, and the only reason he wouldn't be defensive player of the year is because I do think overall team defense does matter. But don't worry, he'll win a bunch in the future. Right now, this is a player that's already one of the 15 best in my opinion. Somebody that developed into that top 15 player in 71 games. And that's the floor. The floor is a player that got so good to the point by the end of the season, you couldn't name 15 better players than him. And barring health, this will be the worst he will ever be in the NBA. And considering he's played 71 games at the time of this recording, likely 72 depending on when you see this, I'm very optimistic he will stay healthy, considering that he has put a lot of focus into his body and flexibility, which are important for somebody that tall. Everything involving Wemby's projections are absurd because of how obvious yet unreal they are, which is something I've highlighted in past videos about him. It feels obvious to suggest that he could be the most dominant offensive and defensive player in the world. It feels obvious to suggest that he could be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, ever. Now, only time will tell, and only the accolades that he wins in terms of team success will determine that in the future. But it's very clear he's going to be the most unstoppable individual player in the league as early as next season, and if he stays healthy, for a very long time, because he almost is right now. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, notified whenever I release a video. I'm making videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways that can help me out the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the playoffs. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Let me know what you think about Victor Wembanyama. Did he live up to the hype? Did he exceed the hype? If he didn't live up to your expectations, I would love to know what your expectations for him this season were, because he was unreal, in my opinion, one of the greatest rookies of all time, maybe the greatest rookie of all time. I'll do all of that down below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. With Victor Wembanyama literally breaking the NBA right now, I think people have forgotten about Chet Holmgren to a certain extent, who's having a monster rookie season in his own right. He's having one of the best rookie seasons in recent memory. In fact, early on he looked like the best rookie in the NBA. However, I've already talked about his absurd rookie season in another video. In this video, I want to focus on the projections for his NBA career, what his prime and peak might look like based off what we have seen so far as a rookie. This video is going to be the same format as my Victor Wembanyama projections video, so if you want to check out that one after this one, I'll link that video in the description and pinned comment. I also plan on making this format of video about other young players like Brandon Miller, Paulo Banchero, and others. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Anyways, let's talk about Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren is already productive and efficient as a rookie in terms of scoring, and he showcases an ability to score on all three levels of the court. Now, he does have a decent amount of his production assisted on. 72.6% of his production is assisted on, to be exact. However, I don't think that takes away from how good of a scorer he is right now, as well as his upside as a scorer. And I don't think that this idea of him just benefiting from others is completely true. In fact, his assisted production percentage is actually slightly lower than Victor Wembanyama's. Now, does Chet benefit from playing off of guys like, say, Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams? Yeah, he does. However, at the same time, it's not like he's just taking easy dump-offs at the rim. In fact, when you really dive into the unassisted production numbers, you really paint a picture of somebody that does have legit on-ball scoring upside. 36.2% of his rim production is unassisted on, 36.1% of his mid-range production is unassisted on, and he's taking a decent amount of volume in both of those areas. Compare that to just 2.8% of his three-point production being unassisted on. While his unassisted production isn't super high, again, he is a big man, and naturally when you're playing with, say, Gilgeous-Alexander, who's one of the 5 to 10 best players in the world, you're not going to get a ton of on-ball opportunity at a really high level. But the fact that it's his three-pointers that really drag down his unassisted production is encouraging. Because, again, it's not like it's all just dump-offs at the rim. A lot of his assisted production is from his three-pointers. And that shows me he's a great off-ball shooter, given the volume and efficiency from three. I don't think the fact that he plays on a good team and benefits from playing off of good players should be used against him. On top of that, he also has really promising indicators with his on-ball reps in terms of the tape. And his ability to thrive off the ball combined with the on-ball upside gives Chet one of the most effective and versatile scoring profiles in the NBA. I do think you have a player in Chet Holmgren that you could potentially build an offense around as your main scorer. He's very polished in terms of the technical side of the game, he's versatile, and he does have the wiring to be aggressive as a scorer and potentially take over games. While I'm not comparing these two players one-to-one, because I do think it would be a lofty expectation for Chet to reach these heights as a player, but the way I view his scoring is similar to how I view Kevin Garnett as a scorer in terms of upside. He can be the guy as the main option and will be very productive in that role and effective, but he can also still be really productive while also playing with other great players. My scoring projection for Chet Holmgren's prime is 24.7 points per game, and with a peak at 26.8 points per game. And I think his production will be better than a guy like Kevin Garnett's, mainly because of the fact that he's just going to take a lot more three-pointers. Chet is already a pretty good rebounder, 9.2 per game per 75 possessions. As a rookie is pretty good. However, he does have room to grow in this area, and a lot of it has to do with his strength. Chet is deceptively strong for his frame. He's added a decent amount of muscle since he was drafted, but he can still get stronger. He entered the NBA at 195 pounds, which, for reference, that's less than what Scoot Henderson is right now. And right now he's around 208 pounds in what is his real rookie season, because, again, he missed all of the 2023 season. And I think he probably maxes out at around 220 pounds. That may seem light for someone that's over 7 feet tall, but he handles contact pretty well right now for a guy that has the same weight you would expect from a 6'4" player. And I don't think he needs to bulk, because I think bulking would hinder the movement skills that make him a special player. I don't think Chet has the rebounding upside of a guy like Jalen Duren, who's already one of the best rebounders in the NBA, because he's just not going to be able to handle that kind of physical weight that Duren has. But I do think that Chet will be a very productive rebounder for his entire prime. The numbers are good right now, and with more minutes and a bit more strength, they can get even better. My rebounding projection for Chet Holmgren's prime is 9.6 per game, with a peak at 10.3 per game. Chet is also someone I view as a solid playmaker right now. He makes good reads within the flow of the offense, he has good vision, and he does have scoring gravity as well as upside to expand his playmaking. I think like most big men, his assist production long term will be based around how much OKC wants to use him as a playmaker, especially considering he's playing with guys like Shea and J-Dub. But I do think he will be a positive in this area long term, even if the numbers won't always suggest it. I see multiple potential outcomes for Chet as a playmaker. I think he could be like a Robert Williams, where the assist numbers don't reflect how good of a passer he is. I could see him being like Bam or even Sabonis, where they are putting up good assist numbers. It really depends on the role he's asked to play. But regardless of role, I do think he will have a real impact in this area. My playmaking projection for Chet Holmgren's prime is 4.2 assists per game, with a peak at 5.4 per game. Now, like Wemby, Chet's defense is already elite. He's in the 95th percentile for defensive estimated plus minus, and he's also 4th in the NBA in blocks per game. He's an absolute monster on defense right now. He's an elite shot blocker that can protect the paint, defend help side, point of attack, hold his own on switches, defend multiple coverages. His motor is one of the best I've ever seen. He has really high field for the game on that end of the floor as well. Times his contest well, covers a ton of ground. And the one area that is a bit of a concern with him isn't even that big of a deal in my opinion. He does need to add a bit more strength. However, he absorbs contact pretty well at his current frame for the most part, and even when opposing offensive players get to those spots, they have a hard time getting the shot over him once they get to the spot, because with Chet, it's not about your ability to get to spots, it's about getting the shot over him. It's very clear this is a guy who will be in Defensive Player of the Year conversations for years to come. He's going to impact defense with and without stats. He's going to be among the best shot blockers in the NBA for years to come, because he's already one of the best shot blockers in the NBA right now. And with more added functional strength, he's only going to get better. My defensive projection for Chet Holmgren's prime is 3.1 blocks per game and 1.1 steals per game, with a peak at 3.6 blocks per game and 1.4 steals per game. Chet Holmgren is someone that is already an incredible player, and the scary part is he's only going to get better. My projection for Chet Holmgren's prime is 24.7 points per game, 9.6 rebounds per game, 4.2 assists per game, 3.1 blocks per game, 1.1 steals per game, and my projection for his potential peak is 26.8 points per game, 10.3 rebounds per game, 5.4 assists per game, 3.6 blocks per game, and 1.4 steals per game. Like I mentioned in the Victor Wembanyama video, this isn't me saying that what I think will be like the whole peak season for him. Like, I'm not saying that this is the stat line that will be his best season. I'm saying these will likely be his career highs, and they can be spread out across multiple seasons over the course of his prime. I think he's going to be All-NBA good pretty comfortably, and I think there's even a possibility he's fringe MVP good. It will be hard for him to win an MVP if he's playing with SGA, but I think he's going to be the best second option in the entire league for his prime if Shea is there the whole time, and maybe even once Shea starts to decline a bit, Chet will become the number one option. I think Chet will be one of those guys you look at as an elite number 2 guy that you know can be the number 1 option on his own team, and that team can be a contender potentially if built around him properly. I think he will make multiple All-NBA and All-Defense teams in his career. He will be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate year in and year out. And I think top 10 to 15 player is a realistic possibility when you look at his offensive upside with how great he is defensively. And I'm confident he will at least get close to these projections, because he's already one of the 3 best players on a team that could be the 1 seed in the West, and he's only a rookie. That's incredibly rare, and I don't care that he got a whole year off. He got to be around an NBA team. Even with that context, it's still really impressive that he's this good already. And it's still very rare for a 21-year-old rookie to be this good, especially for someone with his perimeter skill set, on top of the fact that he's incredibly efficient from the field. Only time will tell with how good Chet will actually be. We can predict all day like I did in this video, but only time will truly tell. But I can't wait to see how his career pans out, because he has a chance to truly be special. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, notified whenever I release a video. I'm making videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and I'm gonna reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. I'd love to hear about Chet Holmgren. Love to hear what you guys think about his ceiling. How good do you think he is right now? Do you still think he has a chance to win Rookie of the Year? What do you think of his chances to maybe be even more than what I project him to be? Or do you think it's less? I'd love to hear all that in the comment section down below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Brandon Miller entered the NBA with a profile that was very sought after as a tall wing with perimeter scoring upside, secondary playmaking, and perimeter defense. And so far through his rookie season, he's lived up to that billing. Through 63 games, he's averaging 16.6 points per game, 4.2 rebounds per game, and 2.4 assists per game on 43.4, 36.8, 80.4 splits, and a 54.1 true shooting percentage, which is very promising for a rookie wing. Miller may not be the most unique rookie ever, especially compared to some of his rookie peers. However, that doesn't take away from the fact this is a player with a clear path to stardom as potentially the next great NBA wing. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and notify whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and I'll be reaching my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Anyways, let's talk about Brandon Miller. When Miller entered the NBA, he was coveted for his three-point shooting ability as a tall wing. In one of the best three-point shooting classes in recent memory, he was arguably the best of the bunch, and it's safe to say that's a skill that has translated to the NBA. He's shooting 36.8% from 3 on 6.3 attempts per game. He does most of his work off the ball, as 93.2% of his three-point production is assisted on. However, that also is a major selling point with him as a player. His ability to thrive as an off-ball shooter from beyond the arc is what gave him such a high floor entering the NBA. He moves very well off the ball, he has very good shot prep, he has deep shooting range, and while the form is a bit funky, his release point is lower for someone that tall. It clearly hasn't been a hindrance based off the results. He isn't a great pull-up three-point shooter. He's shooting just 29.7% on 1.2 pull-up three-point attempts per game. However, at the same time, there are indicators that I will talk about soon that suggest he can grow into being a good pull-up three-point shooter. And regardless, his ability to thrive off the ball as a three-point shooter is very valuable given his position, given his height. That's something that will always be coveted in the NBA, and something that makes him work really well as someone that can play off of one of the best playmakers in the NBA when healthy in LaMelo Ball. While Miller thrives off the ball as a three-point shooter, he also has shown ability to create on the ball as well, and that's showcased most in his mid-range scoring ability, where only 43.1% of his production is assisted on. According to Clean the Glass, Miller is shooting 38.7% on 3.5 short mid-range attempts per game, which are shots between 4 feet and just within 14 feet, and he's shooting 48.1% on 2 long mid-range attempts per game, which are shots between 14 feet and just within the 3-point line. On top of that, he's also shooting 46.7% on 3.5 pull-up 2-point attempts per game. Miller is very comfortable in terms of getting to his spots in the mid-range area. His pull-up mechanics are very fluid. He's more than capable of hitting a contested shot as well, as he's shooting 42.9% on 2.1 shots per game beyond 10 feet, where the defender is between 4 feet of him, which the NBA classifies as tight to very tight defensive coverage. This to me shows that Miller is more than just an off-ball scorer. He can also create on the ball. He is a bit limited on the ball by something that I will talk about later. However, it's very clear that Miller is one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA right now. It's something that he's proving he can do on the ball and be efficient at. And also something that shows he does have room to grow in terms of pull-up 3-point shooting, like I mentioned earlier. Because it's very clear that his lackluster pull-up numbers from beyond the arc aren't because of bad technique. It's more the fact that it's just something he really isn't comfortable with right now, but he does have technique to potentially become good at it due to the fact that he's already one of the better pull-up mid-range shooters in the NBA. Based off his off-ball 3-point shooting and on-ball mid-range scoring, Miller has one of the best scoring profiles for a perimeter wing we have seen in recent memory among rookies. And if he can expand his pull-up shooting to beyond the mid-range, he could be one of the best perimeter scorers in the NBA. Outside of his perimeter scoring profile, the other area I'm very encouraged by with Miller is his connecting playmaking. I do think he's a bit limited as a playmaker in terms of upside. His handle is fine, but it's not the level you want a primary to be at. However, he has really good vision, his feel for the game is very good, he's unselfish, he plays within the flow of the offense, he can make reads in the half court and in transition. One thing that stood out to me when I watched him in Summer League in person was the fact he was really the only player on that Hornets roster that kept his head up and was looking for others in transition. Miller may not be the next great point forward that handles primary reps. However, he is someone that I believe will be a plus playmaker long term. One that knows how to keep offensive flow, one that doesn't stall the offense, and that to me is very valuable because it makes him a player that can be effective in any offensive lineup. Now, I have one concern with Miller on offense. For as great of a perimeter profile as he has, as promising as he is in terms of connecting playmaking, his rim scoring is a real question mark for me, which was also the case entering the NBA. He had real finishing concerns in terms of handling contact as well as getting to the basket during his time at Alabama, and that's something that is also been a struggle for him in the NBA as well. He's shooting 55.3% on 3 attempts per game at the rim, which puts him in the 16th percentile in terms of rim efficiency. He's not the strongest athlete ever, and he also doesn't have great burst or quickness to blow by defenders either. Usually if a player lacks strength early on, they can use quickness to make up for it as they develop physically, like a Jalen Green or the Thompson twins. But that really isn't the case with Miller. Miller is a very good athlete, he's vertically explosive, and he's somebody that moves very well, has very fluid movement skills, but he's not the most quick, even if I wouldn't describe him as not quick. I wouldn't describe him as quick enough to make up for lack of strength, and the strength is a concern as well. And it does hold me back a bit on his ceiling. Being a rim pressure threat is a big factor in terms of the best players in the league, especially on the wing. When you look at guys like Jason Tatum, you see a real ability at the rim, or even a case like Paolo Banchero, where the numbers aren't good at the rim, at least as you would hope they would be, but you see the physical tools and his ability to get to the line. Miller doesn't really have that ability to draw fouls consistently right now. He's not good at handling contact, and it's really hard for him to get by defenders, which is why you see a lot of his bad misses at the rim be because of the fact that he's heavily contested. tested. I think for Miller, his best chance is to get stronger, and I do think it's realistic. His frame looks like it could add on a few more pounds of functional strength. Not bulking by any means, I'm not saying he needs to be built like LeBron. I think if he got to LeBron's weight, it would be a hindrance to his movement skills. But I do think he could get up to around, 210, 215, and that would be enough functional strength to really improve in terms of his ability at the basket. I think this ability will determine just how high the heights he reaches are. And I don't think it's out of the cards he gets better. I actually think he will get better in this area. But I don't really see anything to suggest he can get to the level of rim pressure threat in order to reach some of the lofty expectations some have for him. Brandon Miller is a player that I think is going to be a starter in the NBA. At the very least, he's going to be a real contributor as a starter. His skill set is just too good to have a floor lower than that. At the very least, he's a good shooter that can pull up in the mid-range and play within the floor of the offense as a connector. However, he has a ton of room to grow and improve. Even though he was older for a one-done freshman, he's still only 21 years old, and that's not nearly old enough to suggest he's done getting better. A lot of the best players in the NBA wouldn't even be close to as great as they are now if they stopped improving at 23 or 24, let alone 21. On top of that, he has shown he can make significant improvements in a short amount of time. The player he was at Alabama was significantly better than the player he was as a senior in high school. He made a significant leap during his time in college, which is why I don't think I can rule out the idea of outlier development with him. I think his pull-up three-point shooting and rim pressure are going to be what determine his ceiling. I think it's realistic to believe he can get better as a pull-up three-point shooter just based off the fact that he's a really good mid-range pull-up shooter, and I do think he will get better as a rim scorer with more strength. I'm not overly confident in him becoming a good enough rim pressure threat to reach number one option on contender levels on the wing like a Kevin Durant or a Jason Tatum, but I do think he will get better. I think the best possible version of Brandon Miller is a legit number 2 star and a contender. Someone that thrives playing off of another main option, while also being good enough on the ball to take pressure off that main star. I'm not comparing him as a player skill set wise to these players because they are very different in terms of profile compared to Miller. But I see Miller becoming a star in the way Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, or even Jamal Murray are. You may not view them as a guy you would want as your number 1 contender, but they clearly have a star impact and can thrive off a main option. Regardless of outcome, I do think one thing is very clear. Barring injury, Brandon Miller is going to be a really good player for a very long time. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the 2 best ways that help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Let me know what you think about Brandon Miller. How high do you think his ceiling is? Do you agree with what I've had to say? Do you disagree? Leave all that in the comment section below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Scoot Henderson has had what can be described by many as an underwhelming rookie season. The top 3 pick was viewed by many as the second best prospect in the 2023 NBA draft, and he hasn't quite been what the expectations might have been set at before the season, especially compared to his rookie peers that have been better than him. However, as someone who has watched a ton of Scoot Henderson both prior to the NBA as well as his rookie season, I do think he's been a bit better than his numbers may suggest. Yes, on the surface, 13.2 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 4.9 assists per game on 37.8, 30.7, 82.7 splits, and a 48.32 shooting percentage, while also being the only rookie drafted in the lottery with negative win shares. Doesn't look good, but when you dive into the tape in the context of his season that has led to these numbers as a rookie, you see a lot more promise than the numbers might suggest. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the rookie season of Scoot Henderson, what needs work, what's been promising, and how good could he possibly be. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, notify whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend to others. Also, if you haven't already, I would highly recommend checking out my video essay about the wasted potential of Ruby's main protagonist, Ruby Rose, where I compare her to Scoot Henderson, oddly enough. If you want to see my video work outside of basketball, I'd highly recommend checking out that video and subscribing to my video essay channel. I'll link that in the description below and pinned comment. Anyways, let's talk about Scoot Henderson. When you look at Scoot Henderson's ability at the rim, specifically in his rim pressure numbers, they aren't good to say the least. He's shooting 45.3% at the rim on 4.3 attempts per game, putting him in just the second percentile in terms of rim efficiency. Now, he has dealt with injuries throughout the season that have clearly messed with his rhythm, and I do believe that is a factor. However, even with that, I do think it's fair to be concerned about him being as athletic and physically gifted as he is, and also only being a second percentile finisher at the rim. But at the same time, I have a ton of optimism about his rim pressure upside, especially when you watch the tape. First of all, he's solid at drawing contact. He's in the 84th percentile in terms of free throw attempts, which is pretty good for a rookie, and he ranks second among rookies in the NBA in free throw attempts, behind only Victor Wembanyama. So there's a real indicator of an ability to draw fouls here. It's not perfect, it could use work, but he at least shows the upside in this area. What makes his struggles at the rim so bizarre is, it isn't what you would expect. Usually with rim efficiency numbers this bad, it's because of a lack of physicality and athleticism, not being able to handle contact well, and just not being able to get to your spots at the rim. Scoot doesn't have that problem. He's incredibly physical for his age and position. He's a freakish athlete with great explosiveness, quickness, burst, and speed. He also has really good body control and hang time, and I think his touch around the basket is pretty decent. He doesn't really have a problem getting to the rim. The problem is, once he gets to the rim, he overthinks how much contact he's dealing with, which is what I believe has led to a lot of his struggles at the rim. Sometimes he'll go up too soft when he should go up strong, sometimes he'll go up too strong when he doesn't have to. On top of that, I also get the sense that he doesn't understand how a player of his physicality is going to be officiated. He's one of the most physically and athletic gifted point guard prospects we've ever seen, and somebody like him is going to be officiated differently. I get a sense that he thinks he's going to get foul calls that guys like Trae Young or say Gilgeous-Alexander get, when that's just not going to be the case. Those two get a decent amount of calls because their frames are more susceptible to contact. Scoot has a frame that absorbs contact well naturally. He's built like a sort of Anthony Edwards, which is why, like Edwards, he's going to have to deal with contact just not getting called as much. I understand being concerned about his rim numbers, they are really bad, but I am confident with the strengths of his game long term that it will be a positive aspect, if not the main aspect of what makes him a great player long term. Because I don't think it's about physical tools. He has all the tools you can't teach. A lot of what he will need to improve at the rim is something I believe is very fixable with time and reps. It's very hard for me to believe that someone this physically gifted is struggling at the rim because he can't handle contact at the rim. And when you watch the tape, it makes it very clear that these struggles are a lot more about learning and adjusting to the NBA and how he's going to be officiated, rather than it being about an inability to handle contact, which is why I'm confident this area will improve as time goes on, and as he gets better in this area, his efficiency will take massive jumps. Now, Scoot Henderson has all-star expectations. He went top 3 for a reason, and to be a star point guard at his height, he has to be a real perimeter scoring threat outside of the paint. And I am encouraged by his mid-range shooting. The numbers aren't great by any means. According to Cleaning the Glass, he's shooting 34% on 2.5 short mid-range attempts per game, which are shots between 4 feet and just within 14 feet, and he's shooting 36% on 1.7 long mid-range attempts per game, which are shots between 14 feet and just within the 3-point line. However, I do think there's room for improvement. I do think the volume and these numbers are enough to suggest he can be really good as a mid-range shooter long term, even if they aren't spectacular to say the least. Especially when you factor in that only 20.8% of his mid-range production is assisted on, and you watch the tape. He's a very fluid pull-up shooter, his mechanics are very good, and he's comfortable taking those shots even when he's not shooting well. I believe he has upside to be a real mid-range threat, one that could potentially leverage this ability to open up the other levels of the court for him. While he still has room to grow in this area, I am confident in the mechanics, the free throw numbers, his willingness to take these shots, and the touch on his shots as well, and see real potential as a positive mid-range shooter long term, which is an area that could be used more as a leverage rather than him being a guy that settles for it long term. Like with his rim fencing numbers, the numbers may not be great, but when you watch the tape, you do see a ton of positive indicators. I am also intrigued by Scoot as a 3-point shooter. The numbers aren't good on the season by any means, 30.7% on 4 attempts per game. However, Scoot wasn't viewed as a great 3-point shooter entering the NBA, and I don't think he ever will be an elite 3-point shooter in the NBA. But I do see the signs of him being a very capable one. He's not afraid to take them, he's doing a decent volume of them, a decent amount of his attempts are actually unassisted on. He's in the 5th percentile in terms of unassisted 3-point production, which given the fact his volume is pretty good for a rookie, that tells me a lot. He's shooting 33.7% on 2 pull-up 3-point attempts per game. On top of that, 85.1% of his 3-point attempts are non-corner threes, which is a real positive sign for his shooting profile given the volume. There's really nothing wrong with his form, which is true entering the NBA. Like in the mid-range area, the mechanics are fluid, he's comfortable taking pull-up threes as well, and I think he's taking a decent amount of threes on the ball to the point where it's very important and valuable for his development long term. These reps could be something that pushes him into being a better shooter long term as he gets more comfortable. Long term, I view his 3-point shooting as a leverage, assuming he does improve on his rim scoring, which isn't guaranteed, but I am confident he will. I feel like he can be a solid enough 3-point shooter to leverage that ability if teams focus mostly on the drive. I think Scoot has a ton of upside as a primary playmaker, which is not something that I say a lot. You guys know how I feel about the threshold you need to reach in order to be a primary playmaker. But Scoot has a great handle. He averages less than 1 handle turnover per game. They only account for 25.5% of his turnovers. His feel for the game is great. That was a big selling point with him entering the NBA. His vision is incredible. He has upside to create advantages if he improves on areas of the game that I believe he can and likely will. He can make some really advanced reads, and he has shown real flashes in terms of pass manipulation. Now, it should be noted that he does have a decent amount of passing turnovers. In fact, passing turnovers account for 53.6% of his overall turnovers, and he does make some risky decisions. However, I think this is a very fixable flaw, and it's something that can be improved with time and reps, and not something I'm worried about long term. First, it's very common to see young playmakers have bad turnovers. They're adjusting to reading NBA defenses, which takes time. On top of that, when I watch him play, I don't ever feel like it's a vision problem. He reads the floor very well, but sometimes he will see something that will happen and throws it a bit too quickly, or sometimes he'll try to fit something into a window that's really risky, which reminds me a bit of rookie LaMelo Ball. Now, I don't think Scoot is a LaMelo Ball level playmaker. I think LaMelo is one of the 5 best playmakers in the world in terms of intangibles. but I do see a lot of upside with Scoot as a playmaker in his own right. He has all the tools you look for in terms of vision, in terms of scoring upside to create advantages, in terms of being able to make those advanced reads, and also somebody that can manipulate defenses. It's not there yet, but all the signs are there. And it's what you look for on tape, and it's always why I recommend watching the tape with rookie point guards instead of just looking at the numbers. With rookie point guards, I'm not as worried about assist to turnover ratio. I'm not worried about the decision making as much because it's going to be rocky as they adjust to the NBA. But I like the approach Scoot is taking as a playmaker, and while I do think over the years you want to see the decision making get better, his willingness to attempt advanced reads is a positive, and he's also shown he can make those advanced reads as a rookie, even if it isn't a consistent thing yet, and he's taking a bunch of risks. I'd rather see rookie playmakers make the risks than not make the risks, because I do think, especially with a player like Scoot and his feel for the game, it's something he can learn from long term, and while it's not a guarantee, I do think these reps will lead to better decision making as he gets better down the line. Scoot Henderson is someone I'm still very confident in the upside of. I admit I was wrong about my rookie projections on him going into the season. I thought he would be better than this as a rookie. I said he was going to be the second best rookie in the NBA during the preseason. I don't even think he's a top 5 rookie in terms of right now. But I'm still top 3 to 5 high on his upside in this class. And I still believe he has the potential to be one of the best point guards in the NBA. I understand the concerns. The numbers aren't good at all and they don't look that promising. However, most rookie point guards, especially ones that enter the NBA at 19 years old, are bad. And when I watch the tape, I see all the signs of upside I saw in him as a prospect. He will need to get better if he wants to reach his full potential. That much is obvious. However, I think his flaws speak more to adjustments rather than something that I believe would be a long-term concern about if it can improve. His rim pressure numbers speak more to adjusting to NBA defenses from a technical standpoint rather than a physical standpoint. While his shooting numbers overall aren't good, he showcases the mechanics and willingness to suggest he can be a good to solid shooter long term. And while he has a ton of bad passing turnovers, it speaks more to the fact he's taking risks with things he sees or seeing something a bit too early rather than any legit vision concerns. I don't look at Scoot the way I look at other young guards who have struggled early on, like Killian Hayes or Johnny Davis, because unlike those two, Scoot has shown the ability, even if it isn't consistent. There have been flashes of a really good point guard throughout his rookie season, even if he's had his fair share of ups and downs. He has flaws he needs to fix, but I think those flaws are realistically fixable with time and reps. I would be more concerned if Scoot was afraid to shoot the basketball, had trouble getting to the rim, or had real tunnel vision. And while he's not good at these things right now, I also see the upside to be good in these areas. While his flaws have led to abysmal numbers on the season, these are flaws that can be fixed. His shot can get better with time and reps, because he's not afraid to shoot the basketball, and he has really good pull-up mechanics, which I think are a positive sign, on top of the fact he doesn't take a ton of corner threes and is actually better than expected as a three-point shooter and has shown real flashes on good volume. His finishing can get better with time and reps because he has all the physical and athletic tools. He just needs to adjust to how he's going to be defended and officiated on drives. And his decision making can get better with time and reps because he's not the first and he won't be the last rookie point guard to deal with decision-making turnovers as a passer, and he showcased a ton of special traits as a playmaker throughout the season. It's no guarantee that Scoot lives up to the hype, and I understand as someone that has made countless videos prior to the NBA about him and how special of a prospect he was. Even now, it's no guarantee because of the fact that he does have to adjust, and also it's no guarantee anyone lives up to the hype. However, I don't think he's a lost cause either. He's far from that. I know the impact numbers aren't good. I know the efficiency numbers aren't good. but I still see the flashes of that special point guard prospect. And honestly, even though he struggled as a rookie, I am still confident in my evaluation that resulted in the 4th highest prospect grade I've ever given since I started taking the draft seriously in 2016. I still see the signs of those things that just can't be taught. I still believe Scoot can be an all-NBA level player. It will take him learning and processing how he's being defended at the rim and officiated at the rim better. It will take him making strides as a shooter, and it will take him fixing up the bad turnovers. That's very obvious, but I just don't think I can bet against the tools he has. He's one of the most athletic point guards we have ever seen entering the NBA, especially at that age. His feel for the game is off the charts. I don't think that's gone away. And I do think the injuries are a big factor in this as well. Rhythm is important, especially for rookies, and when you're dealing with nagging injuries throughout the year, your rhythm's going to get thrown off. And I do think that has led to some of the bad shooting games or games where he's overthinking things. But regardless of all that, I still see the signs of a potential monster rim pressure threat. Someone that has more shooting potential than you would think. Somebody that can be a primary playmaker. And I do see a guy that might be the next Ja Morant or De'Aaron Fox. And mind you, he's younger than those guys were when they entered the NBA. I'm not saying it's a guarantee he becomes that good, but the potential was still there. And I don't think this rookie season, even though the numbers are bad, has been bad enough to make you move off if you were high on him as a prospect. And I'm not moved off the idea of him being a great NBA player, because I just haven't seen enough concern when I watch the tape to suggest he can't get there. Again, he just has too many special intangibles that just can't be taught for me to give up on him, because he struggled as a rookie in a season where he's also dealt with many nagging injuries. And I also think his flaws are way more realistically fixable than the numbers suggest. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, notify whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the 2 best ways can help me on the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Scoot Henderson. Do you still think he can live up to the hype? Have you been disappointed? Has this been what you expected out of him? What do you think his ceiling as a player is? Love to do all that in the comment section down below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ausar Thompson didn't have a spectacular start to his rookie season. Through his first 4 games, he was averaging 6.3 points per game, 2.8 rebounds per game, and 1.5 assists per game on a 49.4 true shooting percentage. He then missed extended time due to an ankle injury. When he recovered, the Rockets decided to bring him back slowly and assign him to the G League, where in 2 games, he proved to be a bit too good for that level of competition, averaging 21.5 points per game, 10.5 rebounds per game, and 7.5 assists per game on a 52.6 true shooting percentage. And since being called back up to the NBA level, he's been getting more consistent opportunity. Over his last 12 games, he's averaging 9.2 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists per game, 1.5 steals per game, and 0.7 blocks per game, with a 61.8 true shooting percentage and 19.2 minutes per game. While these numbers don't jump off the page for a top 4 pick, what I've seen on tape is extremely encouraging, because he's showing things that simply shouldn't be possible athletically, and it's why I'm still as high on him now as I was prior to the NBA. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate if you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I release a video. I'm making videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways that can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend to others. Anyways, let's talk about Ausar Thompson. Ausar Thompson has a legit argument for being the most athletic NBA player I've ever seen, and I don't say that lightly. He's ridiculously quick and twitchy. He's blazing fast with and without the basketball in his hands. He has incredible vertical explosion and vertical range. He's a very fluid lateral mover. He has unreal body control and flexibility. He moves like a Kame from a Kame got killed. Hopefully Ausar actually reaches his full potential, unlike that so. And you see the flashes of a monster rim pressure threat in the future. He's shooting 65.2% at the rim on 3 attempts per game. Per 75 possessions, that's 6.2 attempts per game. He's nearly impossible to contain 1v1 athletically. And a number that stood out to me is that over his last 24 games, he's shooting 58.8% on 2.8 attempts per game when a defender is within 2 to 4 feet of him, which the NBA classifies as tight defense. Especially if he gets that first step on the defender, he's not going to be able to be stopped when he's attacking the basket if you don't bring help defense. He's also flashed ability to draw fouls. In 7 of his 30 games played, he's taken at least 4 free throw attempts. I do think a lot of the lower free throw attempt numbers has to do with his role being more limited. If he got more responsibility and opportunity, I think he would be averaging 4 to 5 free throw attempts per game, but given the context of the situation, that's just not the case. He's not perfect as a finisher, can be a bit chaotic, and could be a bit stronger as well, but I'm not too worried about those things because of how promising he's looked in this area, despite not getting consistent minutes in the rotation until pretty recently. But while the rim pressure upside is real, what really stands out to me when watching Ausar Thompson play is his offensive processing. His feel for the game is off the charts, and his ability to process the game at the speeds he does on its own is special. But when you combine that level of game speed processing with the freakish athletic intangibles he has, you get to see plays that just don't seem possible, which applies to both playmaking and scoring scenarios. He has the vision, he has the feel, he has the athleticism you just can't teach. Ausar is matched up on a slower defender in Kyle Anderson here. He's going to use his combination of burst and handle to get by Anderson, where he's met at the rim by Rudy Gobert. Now, this is not a favorable matchup for Ausar. For as athletic as he is, Rudy Gobert is still the best rim defender in the NBA. So the result is as expected when a man attacks Gobert. But I think a man understood that was likely going to be the outcome. So the moment that the impact happens, he's looking for where that basketball is. He uses his second jump to get the basketball and then go back up for the putback before Gobert can even react again. I think this play really shows how a man understands his athletic advantages compared to those around him, as well as his instincts as a player. The ability to understand that he had a bad miss and react to it as quickly as he did. The ability to get it off the glass in a way that only he could get to it athletically, and then understanding that 3 defenders in the paint means that there's an open shooter. I don't fully agree with the comparisons to Ja Morant, but one area I do think they are similar is the ability to thrive as a playmaker in chaos. Even when stumbling and losing his handle, he's able to see that Cam Whitmore is cutting to the basket in an open situation, and he has the feel and vision to get it to him. And this play here is just ridiculous. He's going to take the screen, attack the basket, and go into a jump pass. He's able to read the floor while in mid-air for only a split second and get a pass off in time before he's called for a travel, because if he doesn't get that pass off quick enough, he's going to get called for a travel. I explained this in about 20 seconds. He processed this in less than a second. Amen Thompson is also putting in work as a rebounder. 4.9 rebounds per game and 17.4 minutes per game over his last 24 games is pretty good. He also had a game with 14 rebounds. Now, he's not as good of a rebounder as his twin brother Ausar. Per 75 possessions, if we compare the two, Ausar averages 10.1 rebounds per game, while Amen averages 9.4. Ausar is a better offensive rebounder, and I also think his timing and positioning is a bit better as well. But that's not a knock against Amen, because Ausar is probably the best non-big offensive rebounder in the NBA. And Amen is still a really good rebounder in his own right. He showcases the motor and athleticism on both sides of the glass, which brings value to both offense and defense. Offensively, he can create extra possessions for his team. Defensively, he's athletic and skilled enough to grab and go to start a fast break. For a player that projects to play the 1 through the 4 positions, having a skill like this is very valuable. Amen has a ton of defensive upside as well. His frame and athleticism give him incredible defensive range. He has the motor to capitalize on his gifts with his defense. He's not as polished as his twin brother. He could improve his technique a bit. But I see all the tools to suggest Amen could be an elite defensive player one day. Over his last 10 games, he's averaging 2.2 stocks per game, which is a combination of blocks and steals. Nearly a steal and a half, and nearly 1 block per game is pretty impressive considering that's in 18.6 minutes per game. While he's far from a finished product on this end of the floor, I do believe Amen has the upside defensively to be productive and impactful, especially as an on-ball defender against guards and wings. Amen Thompson is far from a perfect player, because perfect players don't exist in the NBA. However, I'm not too concerned about some of the decision making and handle concerns, because those are things I think all young players tend to struggle with. But he's also someone I view as athletic enough in terms of the handle to make up for it, and he's also shown real upside in terms of his handle as well, and his playmaking, so the decision making and the handle of things I think can get a lot better. However, his jump shot is a real concern. He's shooting 28.6% on 4.9 non-rim attempts per game. That's non-rim attempt 2s and his 3-pointers combined. We all knew it was a concern entering the NBA. The form was funky, the results weren't overly promising to put it lightly, and in order for Amen to reach his full potential, he will have to become at least a respectable shooter. Now that leads us into the biggest question with Amen Thompson. Is there anything to suggest he can become a respectable shooter? Well, he's shooting 70.4% at the line on 2.3 attempts per game over his last 24. While the volume is low on these numbers, according to Clean the Glass, he is shooting 41% on 22 total short mid-range attempts and 45% on 11 total long mid-range attempts. And another stat that is limited in volume, but is somewhat encouraging, he is shooting 40% on 0.8 pull-up 2-point attempts per game over his last 24. While these numbers are a bit low, I have seen some shockingly fluid pull-up mechanics on tape. I say all of this to tell you it's a long road ahead. The flashes have been limited in terms of volume at best. However, I don't think he's a lost cause as a shooter either, because he's not afraid to shoot. He's not the most confident shooter either, but I've seen enough willingness to believe he can get better, on top of a motor that suggests he has the work ethic to get better. I highly doubt he will ever become an elite shooter, but there's some hope he can be competent with proper development. However, there will need to be that real progress to reach the competent levels of shooting with the man as a shooter if he's going to reach his full potential, which is something only time will tell. Amen Thompson has one of the highest ceilings for a young player in the NBA. His floor isn't as high as some others, which is why it's fair to prefer other young players over him, but you have to at least acknowledge how absurd this upside is. Because he just has so many things in terms of physical and athletic tools, as well as feel for the game and intangibles you just can't teach. I do think his floor is higher than most do, despite what I just said about him compared to his peers, because I think at worst, this is an athletic playmaker that has off-ball transition value, can rebound and defend as a spark plug off the bench, an energy guy in your rotation that plays around 20 minutes per game. But at his absolute best, this could be an absolute superstar, one of the best rim pressure threats in the NBA, one of the better playmakers in the NBA, one of the better non-big rebounders, great defensive player, and one of the most versatile and lineup flexible players in the entire NBA. Now, those are two ends of the spectrum, and those are the only two possible outcomes. Like any NBA player, a man has countless potential outcomes, and if you can't tell already, he has to develop as a shooter in order to reach his highest end outcome, and really the level of shooter he reaches will determine how good he is. If he can't improve as a shooter, he's likely a career rotation guy. If he can become a competent enough shooter, he can reach legit all-star to all-NBA status because everything else is just that special. If he somehow becomes an elite shooter, like high volume, 40+% from 3, he will be one of the 5 best players in the world. That outcome isn't realistic, not impossible because anything is possible, but highly unlikely. But that does go to show how promising and special he is in the other areas of the game. I don't think a man will flame out of the NBA. I think he has a high enough floor to contribute in some way at the NBA level for a long time. He has an obvious swing skill that will determine just how high the heights he reaches are, and I'm interested to see how he develops over the next few years, because I think if he does figure out his one major swing factor, he's going to be a nightmare for the NBA. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, and be notified whenever I release a video. I'm making videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways. Can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend others, and let me know what you think about Ausar Thompson. How good do you think he's been? Have you been encouraged? Have you been discouraged? What has stood out to you when you've watched him play? What do you think his ceiling as a player is? Love to do all of that in the comment section down below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you can't tell, I currently have the flu, which is why I haven't uploaded a ton over the past few days. And while I still feel pretty awful, I have been getting better, and I don't feel awful enough to not make a video. And it's fitting that I have the flu as I record this, because the way the Pistons have utilized Ausar Thompson this season has made me sick. I mean, this is a guy who at the start of the season looked like the clear-cut third best rookie in the NBA. However, since getting benched, he hasn't been the same. And honestly, there's no excuse the Pistons have to be utilizing Ausar the way they have, which is what I want to talk about in this video. But quickly, before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate if you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me on the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Anyways, let's talk about Ausar Thompson. Over his first 18 games, Ausar Thompson was incredible, putting up some of the best all-around numbers we've seen from a rookie. He was averaging 11.4 points per game, 9.3 rebounds per game, and 2.9 assists per game, along with 1.1 steals per game and 1.6 blocks per game on 46.5, 11.8, 69.8 splits, and a 50.2 true shooting percentage. The efficiency wasn't good, but the all-around numbers were very encouraging. The defense was great, the freakish athleticism was noticeable, his ability to fit well next to creators was evident, and his ability as a connecting playmaker was something that was encouraging. However, since then, his numbers have seen a noticeable decline, as over his last 20 games, he's averaging 5.3 points per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, 1.4 assists per game, 0.7 steals per game, and 0.5 blocks per game on 40.6, 16.1, 66.7 splits, and a 46.4 true shooting percentage. The production decrease can be explained by his minutes, because he's playing over 10 less minutes per game in his last 20 games compared to his first 18 games. The efficiency decrease can be explained by who he's playing with when he was a starter compared to now coming off the bench. Mainly the fact he plays well off of guys like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren, and doesn't play well off of the bench players. Cade and Ivey are two legit offensive creators, and at least with Cade Cunningham, one that combines scoring and passing. Ausar isn't a good shooter by any means, but that doesn't mean he can't bring value offensively. He's a good cutter, he's someone that's very hard to contain attacking the basket 1v1, major transition threat. Players like Ausar thrive off of playing with advantage creators, like a Cade Cunningham, and to a lesser extent Jaden Ivey. You know how Ausar doesn't thrive? Playing off of Killian Hayes, Isaiah Livers, and Alec Burks, which is what he's done over the past 20 games. Right now, Ausar needs to be playing next to creators, and he isn't, which is doing a massive disservice to his development. And here's the biggest reason why the Pistons have no excuse to not start Ausar Thompson. It's because the Pistons are starting Isaiah Livers over him recently. And the thing is, Isaiah Livers is statistically one of the worst players in the NBA this season. 7th percentile in offensive estimated plus minus, 13th percentile in defensive estimated plus minus, 4th percentile in estimated plus minus, 1st percentile in estimated wins, 4th percentile in shooting percentage, and he's shooting 30.8% on attempts outside of at the rim. It's weird because Livers wasn't this bad prior to this season. In fact, over his first 2 seasons, while limited as a rookie, he got more opportunity in year 2, and there was potential for a backup two-way wing there. But the reality is, that's not what he's been this season, and you're playing him over a top 5 pick rookie that has shown way more promise. Even if Ausar isn't without fault himself, there's no reason that, as of lately, Livers is getting more opportunity than him. And it's not just Ausar. Livers shouldn't be getting more minutes than Kevin Knox this season. And as weird as it may sound, based off the way Knox has played this season, Kevin Knox is the only one I look at where you could justify starting him over Ausar, and Kevin Knox isn't even starting either. Is Ausar Thompson a perfect player? No. Does he have real flaws he needs to iron out to reach his full potential? Yes. He's not a good shooter. That's a real problem right now. But in the past, and even this season, he's shown the confidence and the work ethic to try and get better in that area. Do the Pistons have a legit reason to bench Ausar and keep him on a short leash? No. Here's the thing. If the Pistons were competitive, if they were like Utah, or an even better example, Houston, I would understand this a lot more, which is why I'm not as worried about a Amen Thompson situation with the Houston Rockets as I am about a Ausar Thompson situation with the Pistons. And here's the thing. The Pistons are 3-35. It's a real question if they even crack double-digit wins this season. And they have proven time and time again to even have a chance to win. They need the perfect storm. Guys hitting shots at a ridiculous clip, playing good defense, and Cade Cunningham going supernova. Not to win, but to even have a chance to win. This is not a situation you can justify benching your promising top 5 pick for a worst option, especially when you give significantly worse players more opportunity. I'm not saying Ausar Thompson is the second coming of Michael Jordan. What I am saying is the best way for him to develop is to play alongside Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren. Because it's clear he thrives playing alongside those guys, and he should be an integral part of their foundational core. I just don't understand how you can watch what Ausar was doing when he was a starter, the promise he showed. He had a near 5x5 game early on in his rookie season. That's something that's only been accomplished a handful of times in NBA history, and he almost did it 7 games into his rookie season. The impact on both sides of the glass. He legitimately was one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA when he was starting, and the all-around numbers in general he was putting up. Then you bench him because you're on a losing streak, realize that nothing has changed by benching him, and realize that he wasn't the problem to begin with, and not put him back in the starting lineup where he was thriving. The Pistons have nothing to lose. They already have lost enough, and I don't think losing out on the potential of a promising young player because of stunted development needs to be another one. Ausar Thompson may not have the upside to be a 25 plus point per game scorer. He may not be somebody you look and say, that's a future MVP. But he has potential to be an all-around monster, one that thrives as the glue to your main offensive options, and he needs to be developed in a way that benefits that potential outcome, which isn't the case right now. In a season that is already a lost cause for the Pistons. It was a lost cause by Thanksgiving of this year, well, this past year. Once you realize that, it really makes the idea of benching him puzzling, especially when benching him hasn't made the situation any better. The season is beyond being salvaged, and one thing needs to be made clear. You don't mess up the little promise you already have on that roster. And if the Pistons want to get better from here and find success beyond this disaster of a season, they need to go back to putting Ausar in the starting lineup. And maybe if they do that, he'll start to look like that player he did at the beginning of the season. But that's the end of this video if you made it to this point. Thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, I'm notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the 2 best ways can help me on the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Let me know what you think about the Pistons. Let me know what you think about Ausar Thompson. I'll do all of that down below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Every NBA team that has had aspirations to be great has had that one player who's a major X factor, despite not putting up big numbers or being top 3 in the offense in terms of pecking order of offensive responsibility. They do the things that don't show up in the statistics that matter just as much as what shows up in the box score. For the OKC Thunder, I believe they found that player when they traded up to the 10th overall pick in the 2023 NBA Draft to select Kentucky guard Cason Wallace. I've been on record saying that Wallace is the best one-and-done defensive guard prospect I've ever evaluated, and he's been great for OKC to start this season, showing why many, including myself, were so high on him going into that draft. But while I believe Wallace is that glue guy for the OKC Thunder as they look to build a contender with their young core, I also think he can be even more than that. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate if you would like, subscribe, and the notification bell to be notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the 2024 season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Anyways, let's talk about Cason Wallace. Through 8 games to start his rookie season, Cason Wallace is averaging 8.8 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game, and 1.5 assists per game. While these numbers don't look great on the surface, it makes more sense when you look at the context of the team he's on. Among the players who have played at least 90 minutes for OKC this season, Wallace ranks 8th on the team in usage rate. On top of that, he's been absurdly efficient to start this season as well. He's shooting 69.2% from the field, 57.1% from 3, and 100% from the line with an 82.3 true shooting percentage. Now, I don't expect this efficiency to hold, because that's just a ridiculous level of efficiency for a guard to maintain, especially one with the offensive skill set that Wallace does. And I also think the efficiency will dip the more opportunity he gets as the season goes along. But I do expect Wallace to still be a really efficient player. On top of the fact I believe it's possible that he's a 10 to 12, maybe even 13-14 point per game scorer by the end of the season. Why I believe Wallace will be a relatively productive and very efficient player even as a rookie is the fact that his skill set is very polished and refined as a scorer. He thrives playing off of others and is also capable on the ball as well, which gives him real lineup flexibility and role versatility. On top of that, he doesn't really have any flaws as a scorer. He's a really good shooter, he's a pretty good finisher, he's solid on the ball. I don't think he's someone with elite scoring upside. I'm not saying he's perfect as a scorer. I don't think he's someone we should expect to see averaging 25 plus points per game as this offensive hub. But his scoring skill set is very well rounded and there aren't many real flaws in his offensive game as a scorer. He fits well with others, and I think the upside for a real offensive contributor is there. I think of Marcus Smart in terms of how I think I'll view Wallace as an offensive player to a certain extent. A very good scorer that plays well within the flow of the offense when not asked to overextend himself. However, I think the big difference is that unlike Marcus, I think Wallace has much more disciplined shot selection, which will lead to less chaotic offensive stretches and inconsistency like we've seen with Marcus. Wallace is also a very good passer as well. He has good vision, he makes good reads, he's accurate as a passer, his handle's pretty solid, plays well within the flow of the offense. I don't know if Wallace has primary playmaking upside, but I don't think that really matters because he thrives as a connecting playmaker, and with say Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey, once he starts to pick up his play of course. Being a connecting playmaker is what's most ideal for this offense. Guys who can make that extra pass, make reads off catches in off-ball situations, and can also handle an on-ball rep here and there. Those guys are extremely valuable, and I would say that fits the description for what Cason Wallace is as a playmaker. Overall, I would describe Cason Wallace as a reliable offensive player. He doesn't overextend himself when he doesn't have to. He has a well-rounded skill set, and he fits well with this OKC team. I think it's fair to say that Wallace has the upside to be a real impact offensive player in terms of good production and really good efficiency as a complementary piece. But what makes Cason Wallace so special is his defense. His feel for the game on that end of the floor is beyond his years. His motor is incredible. His technique is very polished. He's very physical at the point of attack. He thrives off the ball. He has active hands. He can hold his own on switches. He's a really good shot blocker for a guard. I know the numbers don't show it yet, but I do think those block numbers will start to pick up. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's averaging over a block a game for most of his career. Basically, every tool and intangible you want from a defensive-minded guard, he has. He can defend both guards and wings. He can defend multiple types of players, from on-ball creating guard wings to off-ball shooters. Now, he's not perfect on defense yet. He's still somebody that has his rookie mistakes and has room to grow like all rookies do. But he's clearly a positive impact defender right now, which is rare to say about a guard, especially one that's a rookie and a one-and-done player. Long term, I think this is a guy that you stick on the opposing team's best offensive perimeter player, and he more than holds his own and makes their life difficult. I truly believe that Wallace could be one of the best defensive players for his position in the NBA at his best. Cason Wallace was one of the 5 best defensive prospects in a draft class that I think is going to be one of the best defensive draft classes we've ever seen. And he's easily the best one-and-done defensive guard prospect I've ever evaluated. While I wouldn't say he's been a steal or went lower than he should have, like I usually do with Kentucky guards, I did believe that teams like the Pistons and Magic at picks 5 and 6 should have considered taking him. Now, the Pistons made the right pick. Ausar is one of the 3 or 4 defensive players in that draft that I think are better than Wallace on that end of the floor, and he's proven to be one of the most impressive non-volume scoring rookies I've ever seen. And I think Anthony Black is going to be a good player as well. And it's also still early. It's way too early to say this guy was a steal or this guy went too high. But Wallace is proving OKC right by being the first one-and-done Kentucky guard the league didn't overthink and let fall way further than they should have since John Wall. Offensively, I think he can be a 14 to 17 point per game scorer on incredible efficiency, along with 4 to 5 assists per game in a connecting role. Defensively, I think he can be one of the best in the league for a guard. I look at Cason Wallace and don't see a world where he isn't a good NBA player, and I felt that way since he was in high school. He's just too refined and polished on both ends of the floor to believe otherwise. His feel for the game on defense and his high floor on offense were just too much to suggest that he wouldn't work out in the NBA. I know it's been early, but everything I saw from high school to college is showing up on tape in the NBA. I think he can be the next great defensive guard in the NBA, following in the footsteps of guys like Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart, and Derek White. In fact, while I don't think it's necessarily a one-to-one comparison, I think statistically it's realistic to believe that Wallace can reach the heights that Derek White has on offense, and I think defensively he has some very similar traits to Drew Holiday. Only time will tell with how good Cason Wallace will be in the NBA, but I have all the confidence in the world that he will be a key contributor on great teams in his career, both with and without stats. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the 2 best ways can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the 2024 NBA season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Cason Wallace and how good you think he can be in the comment section below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Dereck Lively was a consensus top 3 recruit in the 2022 high school class. However, after a year or two where he dealt with injuries, his draft stock fell a little bit. But he still was a high upside prospect that averaged over 2 blocks per game and under 20 minutes per game with elite athleticism, which is why the Mavericks took him 12th overall in the 2023 NBA draft. Lively may not have numbers that stand out the most, especially compared to his other rookie peers at his position. 8.8 points per game, 6.9 rebounds per game, 1.1 assists per game, 1.4 blocks per game, on 74.7 field goal percentage are good numbers for a rookie averaging under 25 minutes per game as a center, but these numbers don't blow you away by any means either. But Lively at the same time had a real impact on the Mavs this season and was an important factor in where they are now. In this video, I want to talk about just how good Lively was as a rookie, why he's better than his numbers may suggest, and what his potential is moving forward. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and notify whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the playoffs. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Anyways, let's talk about Dereck Lively. Dereck Lively is already one of the best play finishers in the NBA. He's on 78.5% at the rim on 4.8 attempts per game, putting him in the 99th percentile for rim efficiency and 87th percentile for rim volume. At 7'1" with a 7'5" wingspan, Lively is a monster athlete. He's an explosive leaper, he's a fluid mover, he has good touch around the basket, he has good hands, only 11 lost ball turnovers in 55 games is really good, and he's also very smart as a play finisher as well. He reads movements as the roll man, he times his jumps well, he's very definitive on his rolls, he picks his spots well, and his chemistry with Luka is very good, which is important considering Luka is the centerpiece of the franchise. While it's easy to say that a player that's 7'1" and really athletic should be good at play finishing at the rim, it's not always that simple. It takes actually being able to handle finishing through contact, good hands, and good touch. It's also one thing to be good as a roll man, it's another to be as effective as Lively is as a roll man as the second half of a pick and roll duo with one of the best players in the world. It takes real understanding and feel, it takes real chemistry, and Lively has that. His threat as a roll man and play finisher combined with Luka's generational offensive gravity makes for a very hard pairing to stop. Luka is an elite playmaker and Lively is an elite play finisher, and given how much teams fear Luka as a scorer, it leads to much easier looks for Lively, and the easier looks for Lively need to be somewhat focused on as well, which can open things up for Luka. While it may not be the perimeter scoring versatility of Chet Holmgren or the game-breaking offensive ability of Victor Wembanyama, while he's not putting up monster numbers by any means, what Lively does as a play finisher is valuable, especially given his chemistry at his age with a franchise player already. Lively is also very effective as a rebounder, 6.9 rebounds per game with 2.5 of them being offensive rebounds, and under 25 minutes per game is really good. And as he gets more minutes, those numbers will get better, which is why I believe he will likely be a double-digit rebounder long term. Rebounding takes effort and motor, unless you're DeAndre Ayton, and Lively has the effort and motor to say the least. He works hard on the glass, he can create extra possessions and opportunities on the offensive glass, he's effective on the defensive glass as well, he picks his spots pretty well, but I will say, he can get a lot better as a rebounder. Where he picks his spots can get better, the positioning can get better, even if I think he's pretty good right now, and he still has more functional strength that he could add to his frame, and with that potential added strength, he could be even more effective on the boards. Like with his play finishing, it's easy to say that a 7'1" player should be a good rebounder, but that's not always the case. Just because you're tall doesn't mean you're going to be a good rebounder. Look at Luke Cornett or Jaren Jackson Jr. it's still a very real trend that rebounding is important to winning, and while Lively still has room to grow, he is someone that projects to be a really good rebounder long term, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's among the best rebounders in the NBA if he adds more functional strength, which just adds to a valuable skill set even if the numbers don't fully show it. I am also very encouraged by Lively as a passer. He may not be a big time playmaker, but he's a better passer than the numbers suggest. He makes good reads off the roll, he can make that extra pass, find guys open off offensive rebounds, kick it out in transition, make smart decisions as a passer, and it just makes him more than a one-dimensional play finisher. I don't think we're talking about a Jokic level passer. We probably won't say that about any player ever again. I don't think we're talking about a Bam or Sabonis level passer, even to a lesser extent a Jalen Duren type passer, because Lively doesn't have the handle that any of those guys have. But I do see a Robert Williams type of passer in Lively, a guy who may not put up big time assist numbers or even half of it. He might average 1 assist per game for his career, but when you watch them play, you can tell that they're a better passer and playmaker than the 1 to 2 assists per game might suggest, because they make effective reads, they play within the flow of the offense, and they're vital to offensive flow, not halting. Defensively, Lively has monster upside. He moves well in open space, he's a really good shot blocker, covers pick and rolls well, he has the athleticism and length to be effective defending the rim and contesting shots, but he does have room to improve. He can cut down on the fouls, and he has his moments where he makes rookie mistakes, which are common. But the motor is there, the intangibles are there, and it just looks like when I see the negatives with him defensively on tape, it's just about defending to NBA defenses, which is common for young bigs. Even Wemby himself struggled to adjust. He just happened to have the instincts and tools that are out of this world, and I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying this to say that Lively can't be good on defense, because I think he's going to be very good on defense, but I do think that it's common for a rookie big to have his lapses, and it's not something I'm worried about long term. I will say Lively isn't like a Bam Adebayo who defends multiple positions, and also he's not like Wemby, who is this defensive monster just by being on the court. But he's very effective for modern big standards. He can drop effectively, he can hedge effectively, he blocks shots at the rim and weak side, hold his own on switches even if I don't think he's a 1-5 defender by any means, makes the hustle plays, and as he gets stronger and gets more reps, he will only get better defensively. Lively isn't someone I project to be a big time star. I don't see this 25 plus point per game scorer, or this guy that's putting up big time assist numbers around anything above 6 or 7 per game like Sabonis. But that doesn't mean I don't think he has a ton of upside either. This is the type of player that helps you win titles. He may not put up big numbers, but when you watch him play, you see the impact. An impact that is significantly more impactful than the numbers might suggest. As a Celtics fan, I've seen this before with Robert Williams, a player that didn't put up monster numbers, but clearly had a monster impact while also knowing his role on the team and didn't halt to stall anything about the team's game plan. And I do see similarities between Dereck Lively and Robert Williams. The motor, the defensive coverages, the rebounding, the shot blocking, the playmaking ability that's a lot better than the numbers might suggest, the pick and roll feel and chemistry. They have a lot of similarities. The difference is that Lively is 5 inches taller than Williams, and I would say that Williams is a more explosive athlete when healthy. And seeing what Rob did at 6'8" was a clear monster impact. Now imagine that in a 7'1" player and what it will look like. Only time will tell if the Mavericks can fully capitalize on having a transcendent talent like Luka Doncic during his prime. Only time will tell if they can win a title. But I do know one thing. If they ever win a title, Lively will be a big reason for that, as one of the most important players on this Mavericks team and one of the most impactful bigs for a very long time. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, notify whenever I release a video. I'm making videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me on the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Let me know what you think about Dereck Lively. How good do you think he can be? Where did he rank among the best rookies in the NBA this season? I'll go through all of that in the comment section down below. I know content has been slower than usual as of recent, but I promise you guys, the content will be ramping back up with the playoffs and the draft lottery coming up. So expect content to be around where it was at the beginning of the year compared to where it was over the past 2 or 3 months, I would say. Actually, that doesn't make sense. That would take me to the beginning of the year. Anyways, basically over the last 2 months, I would say. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. There's been a ton of hype surrounding the rookie class this season, from the plays of Victor Wembanyama that make you question what reality is, to the monster impact of Chet Holmgren on the most promising young team in the NBA, to the absurd statistical and athletic feats of Ausar Thompson. Guys like that are getting a ton of hype for a good reason. But one rookie who stood out recently to me has been Jazz guard Keyonte George. George was a prospect coming out of Baylor that I had as a lottery talent on my big board, and I believe that he was worth a top 10 pick. But he fell to pick 16, landing with the Utah Jazz. While George may not have numbers that stand out compared to his rookie peers, he's gotten more opportunity as a starter recently, and has looked really good on tape. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways you can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Anyways, let's talk about Keyonte George. On the season, Keyonte George is averaging 8 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game, and 4.8 assists per game on 38.5, 30.4, 82.4 splits, and a 51.5 true shooting percentage. While these numbers don't look great, it's common to see young scoring guards struggle early on. Anthony Edwards is a recent example of a talented young scoring guard that struggled early on in his rookie season, and we've seen how his career has turned out. Now, I'm not saying that George will be the next Anthony Edwards. That's a lot to ask for a young player. But what I am saying is that rookie scoring guards tend to struggle adjusting to the NBA. A lot of it has to do with adjusting to NBA-level defenses, going from prior to the NBA, where they were the best shot creators among their peers and really hard to guard, to a league full of guys who were the best shot creators among their peers prior to the NBA, with defenses that prepare every night to try and contain those level of players. When I look at the misses with George, I see the natural adjustment growing pains that a lot of rookie scoring guards go through. What's important to me is that early on, George hasn't lost his confidence. He's not afraid to take shots, and while that can hurt the offense at times, long-term remaining confident is key, which is why I'm not too worried about the efficiency to start this season. And when it comes to the positives of Keyonte George as a scorer, it's very clear he has the talent and ability to be a really good scorer in the NBA. He's scoring both on and off the ball, he's strong and physical as a driver, his shot mechanics are very fluid, he has natural counters on tape, he's capable of hitting tough shots, and while the numbers may not reflect it now, all the tools for a very complete scorer are evident on tape. The athleticism and physicality, the handle, the natural feel as a shot creator, the shooting touch, the ability to score on and off the ball. I'm very confident that George will eventually pick up his scoring as the season goes along. It may not be the most efficient all the time, but it's hard to look at what he's doing on tape and believe that he'll be an 8-point per game scorer on really low efficiency for much longer. And I really like that the Jazz are letting him play through his mistakes, which is something I believe is helping his confidence. But the area I've been most impressed with Keyonte George is one that I didn't expect to be as impressed with this early on in his rookie season, and that's been his playmaking. Now, he wasn't a bad playmaker entering the NBA, but a lot of the focus was on his scoring ability. But George has been really good as a playmaker. He's averaging 4.8 assists per game with a 2.8 assist to turnover ratio through 11 games. However, the Jazz have been starting him recently. And over his last 3 games, where he's been their starting point guard, he's averaging 9 assists per game with a 5.3 assist to turnover ratio. While it's only 3 games, which is a small sample, that's still really impressive for a rookie. And I've been impressed with what I've seen on tape. He's making very good reads. He's being effective as the setup and transition passer. He's been solid as the P&R ball handler. He's making reads off drives. He can make that extra pass off the ball. And while he does have a few rookie mistakes, he's only averaging 1 bad pass turnover per game this season, which is impressive for a rookie handling point guard responsibility. He's been making really good decisions as a passer, and I believe once his scoring picks up, his playmaking value will only get higher, because that means he has more gravity as a scorer, which leads to more advantages being created for those around him. Ideally, George will bring his most value as a primary connecting hybrid playmaker, someone that can handle primary reps while also being a really nice connector off the ball. I think he can be a solid full-time primary playmaker, but I think he'll bring way more value as a playmaker long-term if you make him a hybrid that thrives both on and off the ball because of his scoring skill set. I think if you have a guy that makes reads in both those situations, like George can, it is really what's best in terms of maximizing his value as a playmaker. Overall, I've been really impressed with Keyonte George to start this season. While he may not be the most efficient and the numbers don't pop off the page like other rookies in this class, he's shown the flashes of that coveted scoring prospect that made him a lottery talent in my opinion, while also showing he has more value as a playmaker early on. We will have to wait and see with the other rookies in Utah, like Taylor Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh. I'm high on those two as well, but George is getting real opportunity, including starting at point guard, instead of playing in the G League like those two are. There's nothing wrong with playing in the G League as a rookie. There's nothing wrong with the G League in general. But it's clear to me that Utah is seeing positive signs on tape and also believe that NBA reps are more valuable for his development. And I agree with that. Getting to grow as a playmaker while figuring it out as a scorer next to a player like Lauri Markkanen, a lob threat like John Collins, and experienced veterans like Jordan Clarkson and Chris Dunn is more beneficial for his development than having a super high usage rate and taking a bunch of shots in the G League. That can work for some players. Development is not linear. But for George in particular, I do believe that NBA reps are what's best for him long term. Only time will tell with how good Keyonte George will be in the NBA. But I think if he puts it all together, he can be an all-star in this league. And I know that might sound crazy for someone that was the 16th pick, but he's shown in Summer League and he's showing in his rookie season he shouldn't have fallen out of the lottery. The best possible outcome for George, in my opinion, is a complete scorer that's valuable on and off the ball, as well as a playmaker that's capable of primary reps and thrives as a connector. That's a player that can put up around 20 to 22, maybe even more than that points per game, 5+ rebounds per game, 6 assists per game. put up really good all-around numbers, and maybe the efficiency gets better as well, but because of how valuable their skill set is, you'll live with them being a 55 to 58 true shooting percentage instead of a 60 true shooting percentage player. Now, whether he lives up to the potential is not something any of us can answer right now, but it's very clear that Keyonte George has the upside to be one of the most complete guards in the NBA, and in a few years, I think we will look back and wonder how the NBA let him fall all the way to pick 16. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, I'm notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the 2024 season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Let me know what you think about Keyonte George in the comment section below. I know, second upload of the day. I just felt like it. I got the Holmgren video done earlier. YouTube was just being weird, that's why it came out later. And I've been working on the Keyonte video that you're seeing now since like noon. So I just thought, why not just get it out now? Then you'll probably get another video tomorrow. I've been in a really good groove editing. So that's why I got to upload today. You'll probably get an upload tomorrow. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But with that being said, have a nice day. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Going into the 2023 NBA draft, Cam Whitmore was projected to be a top 10 pick. In fact, I believed he was the 5th best prospect in that class behind Victor, Scoot, Miller, and Amen, and thought he would be a great pick at 5th overall for the Detroit Pistons. However, for one reason or another, he fell all the way to pick 20, being drafted by the Houston Rockets, which was a pick I praised at the time because I think they probably heavily considered taking him at pick 40. So getting him at pick 20 felt like a potential steal. Whitmore barely played a decent amount at the start of his rookie season, spending a lot of time in the G League where he was incredible. However, recently he's gotten more opportunity at the NBA level and he's looked really good, showing us why he very likely should have never fallen as far as he did in the draft. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'm notified whenever I release a video. I'm making videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Anyways, let's talk about Cam Whitmore. Over his last 10 games, Cam Whitmore is averaging 12.1 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, and 1.1 steals per game on 51.7, 40, 78.9 splits, and a 64.6 true shooting percentage in 17.7 minutes per game. While I don't know if he can maintain this efficiency, this is absurd efficiency for a rookie, and he's also really young. This is a sign of a player capitalizing on the opportunities he gets, and also showcasing the tools necessary to be a good NBA player for a long time. Also, the efficiency is encouraging for a super young score-first player. Cam Whitmore is a physical monster, staying at 6'7", weighing 232 pounds with a 6'9" wingspan. Over his last 10 games, he's shooting 71.4% at the rim on 3.5 attempts per game, which considering he's playing less than 20 minutes per game, that volume is actually pretty good. He's from the Jaylen Brown-Anthony Edwards school of athleticism, combining an unreal frame, strength, and physicality with speed, burst, quickness, and explosiveness at such a young age. This gives Whitmore immediate value as a cutter and transition threat as a play finisher. On top of that, he has one of the best second jumps I've ever seen. His ability to get to the ground and then jump back in the air is matched only by a handful of NBA players. For a decent amount of players, it takes years to get to where Cam Whitmore is physically and athletically. And mind you, he's only 19 years old and one of the youngest players in the NBA. He's too strong for quick players, he's too quick for strong players, and when you combine that with his skill as a scorer, you get someone that has potential to be very hard to contain 1v1. Another area I've been impressed with Whitmore has been his 3-point shooting. Over his last 10 games, he's shooting 40% on 4 attempts per game from beyond the arc. But the area I've been most encouraged by is his catch and shoot ability, as over that stretch, he's shooting 47.8% on 2.3 catch and shoot 3-point attempts. This is important because Cam Whitmore isn't a primary scoring option, and for him to get more minutes consistently in the rotation, he's going to have to play off the ball. Being a catch and shoot player is a good start. I feel like Whitmore was underrated as a shooting prospect entering the NBA, given the fact he was an athletic wing prospect that shot below 35% from 3. But you have to remember he dealt with injuries and had a slow start to the season. He shot 37.3% on 4.2 attempts per game in 20 games he started at Villanova and showed real ability in catch and shoot situations. I think given his cutting and transition ability on top of a promising catch and shoot ability that has a prior tape to the NBA to back that up as a real thing, there's a path for Whitmore not only to be a rotation piece for the rest of the season, but also maybe even take a starting spot long term. Whitmore also has creation upside. He showed it a lot more in the G League, and he hasn't showed it as much in the NBA, mainly because in the G League he's just asked to be an on-ball creator more than he is at the NBA level, but I see the flashes at the NBA level as well. A functional handle combined with unguardable physical and athletic tools can do wonders. Now, I do notice some shot selection problems, but he's one of the youngest players in the NBA. That's going to be common, especially given his archetype. I see the path for Whitmore to grow into a very capable self-creator at the NBA level, to the point where as a scorer, he's lineup flexible and more versatile, which is something both in the short and long term that will be beneficial for his development. Now, the defense is interesting. I think he has a ton of upside on that end of the floor, but he has his ups and downs, just like he did in college. He's a rookie, so that's to be expected, and he hasn't played enough to get a real feel either, but he does have all the tools to be really good on that end of the floor, and I'm going to let time tell over the next 1 to 2 years to see how he ends up on defense. I have one major concern with Cam Whitmore, however, and that's his playmaking. He really isn't good as a playmaker. His feel isn't great. He has tunnel vision. He's a scorer at heart. He averaged less than 1 assist per game in college, and I know assists per game don't always tell the full story, especially in college, where a lot of your numbers in terms of assists per game are based off of the system you play in and the role you're asked to play. Just ask any player at Kentucky. But considering he had a usage rate slightly above 25%, it was a bit telling, and when you watch the tape, there really wasn't much to suggest any sort of playmaking ability. I don't know if Whitmore will ever be an impact playmaker at a high level. I've seen some flashes in the G League that are encouraging, but nothing that suggests super high-end outcomes, to say the least. I'll tell you right now, if he was a high-impact playmaker entering the NBA, he would have gone second overall. That's how good the rest of his game is, in my opinion. It's not a major concern in the sense of him and his upside to be a good NBA player for a long time, but I do think it puts a cap on what his ceiling might be as a player. Cam Whitmore is someone that has all the tools to be an impactful NBA player, and his skill set can contribute to a competitive basketball team in a real way right now, in my opinion. He is upside as an on-ball scorer that can expand his game over time, and somebody that is effective as a cutter and transition threat, as well as catch and shoot player right now, combined with elite athleticism. When you get a player that you can really see as a spark plug, 15-minute per game guy right now as a 19-year-old rookie that again is one of the youngest players in the NBA, there is upside to be more than that, just based off how rare of an athlete he is. He needs to improve his defensive technique, but he's young and has time to figure that out. I do see a bit of Jaylen Brown in his game they have similar athletic profiles, although Whitmore is even bigger than Jalen was at the same age, and Whitmore was a year younger than Jalen was when he entered the NBA. I see a world where Whitmore is an effective off-ball scorer that can create on the ball in a real way. Although you don't want him being the focal point of your offense, but they fit well next to a big-time creator because they can play on and off the ball as a scorer. That's what makes Jalen a valuable player on the best team in the NBA right now, and I think that's the path for Whitmore to be a high-end NBA player for a long time. I think the absolute best case outcome for Cam Whitmore is an all-star wing as a second or third option. And if he shows any real improvement as a playmaker, he could maybe even reach all-NBA heights. But that's a big ask for anyone. Playmaking is not something that you magically just get better at. Only time will tell when it comes to how good Cam Whitmore can be, but he has all the tools to be an effective NBA player for a long time due to his off-ball scoring and on-ball upside combined with rare athleticism. I think his defense and playmaking will determine just how high the heights he reaches are, but regardless, I do think he's going to massively outperform his 20th overall draft slot and have a lot of teams in that late lottery to mid-first round kicking themselves for passing on him. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, I'm notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me out the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Let me know what you think about Cam Whitmore. Do you think he was a steal at 20? Where do you think he should have gone in the draft? How good do you think he can be? How good do you think this Rockets team can be? I'll do all that down below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.